Welcome once again and for the last time to Portugal Makes Sense conferences. This panel will address the topic, Role of SMEs in a deglobalization context. Pandemics, trade wars and flare-ups of conflict have hit multinationals hard. This suggests that those industrial SMEs may have a higher resilience that, while acting digitally global, are closer to continental-sized production clusters. Let's find out what the experience from the recent past teach us and reflect on planned transformation and on models of direct cooperation between small and medium companies, specifically between German and Portuguese. Before the discussion, may I have your attention to the opening remarks by Bernard Yves Cruz, the Secretary of State for Internationalization.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. It's a pleasure to close or to open the final conference in our series of Portugal Makes Sense here in Hanover. I must apologize from the start because I have a plane to catch immediately after this conference, so unfortunately I won't be able to listen to the debates. But I'd like to make a couple of remarks before I leave and before you start the proper conversation. I will not go over why Portugal makes sense. I will address you to the remarks made by the Chancellor of Germany, by the Minister of Economics, by the ambassador, the German ambassador to Portugal, and by the many German companies that we have been talking with and negotiating with over this week. The best advertising for why Portugal makes sense is the perception of the German government, the German companies, and our German partners in a way that they work with Portugal. I would say, however, that Portugal makes sense for economic reasons, for the way that we are open to do business, for our location, for the risk or the lack of risk that Portugal brings to new businesses and to negotiations, for our sustainability, for the talent of the Portuguese people, for our innovation and quality of life. And let me give you just one figure. Compared to the first quarter of 2021, the growth of the Portuguese economy in the first quarter of 2022 was 11%, and our exports in the same period grew 47%. So if you like to think about a country that is safe, that is nice to live in, that is open for business, where the risk is very low, sustainability, talent, innovation, and quality of life are available, and the economy is doing really well, you think of Portugal. War, the pandemic, sustainability, digital transformation, all of these are realities of our present. And we have to deal with them. And because of them, or around them, we are also watching and witnessing here in Europe the reindustrialization of the continent. That will impact in SMEs, as will impact in large companies, but it will impact specifically and particularly in SMEs. As businesses come back to Europe, the SMEs will have to adapt and will have to respond to these new challenges. And I'd like just to make one small point before I leave you on the role of SMEs and the way that SMEs can work. Yesterday, the Court of Auditors of the European Union published a report on SMEs. There's some considerations there, but I'd just like to draw your attention to one of the considerations. According to the Court of Auditors, innovation and sustainability are the key elements of the future of SMEs in Europe. And for SMEs to thrive, they have to work in partnership and collaboration, not only among other SMEs in particular European countries, but SMEs across the European Union. So what the Court of Auditors is telling us is that what Portugal is doing, it makes sense. And it makes sense together with German companies. Because if you look around for the last week, if you consider what the German companies have told us, if you consider what the Portuguese companies have told us, we come to the obvious conclusion that Portugal and Germany have a very similar approach to issues, a very similar approach to important affairs, the way that we look at the world and the way that we wish the world to move forward. And so Portugal and Germany make sense, and if you had any questions about that 5 days ago, I'm sure you don't have it anymore. Thank you so much for your attention. Thank you for coming to our stands. Thank you for all the support that the Portuguese and the German companies gave to the effort that the Portuguese government, the agency, the Portuguese Business Development Agency put in having our presence here as the partner country for the 2022 Hanover Mess, and I'm sure I will see all of you in Portugal sooner rather than later. Thank you.
Now, Nuno Gonçalves, the board member of IAPME, that is the Portuguese Institute of Support for Small and Medium Enterprises.
Good afternoon, Mr. Secretary of State for Internationalization, Dr. Bernardo Ivo Cruz, Mr. President of ICEP, Director of the German Mittelstand, distinguished guests. As representative of IAPME, I want to start by thanking the invitation to be here with you today, sharing our vision on such an interesting and actual topic. Hanover Mess represents a great opportunity to improve trade and the investment relations between Portugal and Germany. Economic relations between our two countries are at an all-time high, but there is still room to grow and to potentiate new synergies of cooperation. In the last 4 decades, Portugal has highly invested in our most precious resource, our human capital, our people. We have invested in education. We have increased significantly the level of higher education in Portugal. We now have excellent engineering, business schools, life sciences schools, which allowed us to compete internationally, supported by highly skilled talent. There are several areas in which we can cooperate with Germany, but also other areas where German companies can contribute with a significant added value in Portugal, and at the same time can also find good business opportunities in our country. Portuguese companies are innovative, competitive, and increasing its market shares in international markets. At present, foreign direct investment is at high. We keep attracting productive investment from companies all over the world and across very different sectors of activity. As you know, SMEs play a major role in all national European economies, generating employment, added value, and contributing significantly to innovation. SMEs are essential to achieve environmental sustainability and more inclusive growth. Although SMEs are more flexible and have a very fast response capacity, there are some barriers that limit their participation, such as the business environment, the ability to access strategic resources which are critical for SMEs' competitiveness, namely access to finance, skill shortages, poor management practices, difficulties in the adoption of more sophisticated digital technologies, and SMEs are also less connected to international knowledge networks than large firms. One of the most important lessons that we have learned from the economic crisis concerns the need to make Europe more autonomous in products that are imported from other geographies. We must bet on proximity production chains, which will be a great opportunity for European companies, SMEs in particular. But we must make it different. We must add knowledge, technological intensity. In conclusion, we must add value. This new reindustrialization challenge only makes sense if done in partnership between companies, small, medium-sized and large companies, and always in close collaboration with the entities of the scientific and technological system. Indeed, the competitiveness of companies is largely a result of their ability to innovate and assert themselves in global value chains. In Portugal, we are highly investing in collective efficiency policies within the scope of clusters of competitiveness. The objective is to enhance the aggregation function of clusters and implement joint training, investment, R&D, and internationalization strategies. Recently, to develop policies that can support Portuguese SMEs in making the most of the new opportunities offered, we are implementing the Portuguese Recovery and Resilience Plan, which benefits from the strategic vision for Portugal developed by Professor António Costa Silva, our Minister of the Economy and Maritime Affairs, in a view to recover the country from the pandemic situation and lay the foundations for an economy of the future. A significant part of the Recovery and Resilience Plan resources is allocated to what we call the mobilizing agendas. This initiative aims to support productive investment associated with product and process innovation. These mobilizing agendas are intended to promote a structural transformation in the productive profile of our economy, seeking to strengthen the links between companies and the entities of the scientific and technological system, and to generate products and services of greater added value oriented towards external markets. Powered by new technologies, the way we live our lives as workers, citizens, and consumers is changing. The digital revolution is a unique opportunity for the development of the small and medium-sized companies in a new economic model, and that's why we launched 17 digital innovation hubs in Portugal. These digital innovation hubs will allow the integration of companies in the best international research and development networks and the production of knowledge in areas associated with the digital transition, such as artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, or advanced computing, with the objective of creating, again, more value in companies and favor the attraction of investment. Another relevant area of our economic policy is, of course, the climate agenda, which brings a great challenges and opportunities for companies, namely in terms of the decarbonization of the industry, greater efficiency in the use of resources, and the opportunity to conquer more sophisticated markets with environmentally friendly products. It is necessary to produce in a more sustainable, greener way in a circular logic. The crisis the world is facing has proved that all of us must be more active in sharing knowledge and building solutions, and this should be deployed in a fast and collaborative way. The challenges are enormous, but as companies in our both countries have already shown, by working together, it is possible to overcome obstacles, even those that seemed overwhelming. Thank you.
I will now invite Reinhold von Ungern-Sternberg, Director of International Markets at Bmw, the German Association for Small and Medium-Sized Business.
Yes, dear Mr. Gonzalez, dear Mr. Pinto, distinguished panelists and guests of discussion, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to greet you here all today and to be part of a discussion on such an important topic, the role of SMEs in the world of deglobalization. I find it very symbolic that we are having this discussion at the Hannover Messe, one of the leading trade fairs worldwide concerning industry and digital development. Its main purpose is to connect enterprises from all around the world. But it's a world where the economic nationalism is dramatically rising. The deglobalization trend is indeed increasing, resulting in a negative and impact on global businesses. Trade wars, geopolitical tensions, and global tech race triggered many countries to adopt trade protectionist measures for promoting domestic producers and protect them from foreign competition. While European entrepreneurs were still in shock after Brexit, the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic undoubtedly have caused a massive supply chains disruption and having a negative impact on global industrial production. At least Russia's war against Ukraine forced many companies to relocate production chains towards closer regions. All these factors are making the world less open and less free and constrain the international growth of SMEs. It's needless to say that SMEs play a vital role in global economic development and the most important development of human well-being of any country. According to the EU report from 2019, they have created 85% of all new jobs in European Union in the past 5 years. We cannot neglect that the fact that SMEs are important engines to reduce poverty and inequality in rural sectors while supporting the employment of marginalized groups. Deglobalization has negative impact on labor market as many European countries as well as USA have implemented immigration restrictions for labor migrants, limiting thereby an access of SMEs to global pools of talent. In Germany, 44% of all companies are affected by a shortage of skilled workers, what fundamentally endangers their competitiveness. We at BMW understand the importance of SMEs for every economy, and since 1975 we represent small and medium-sized enterprises all over Germany. The BMW is the biggest voluntarily organized and cross-sectoral economic interest group for the Mittelstand. Together with our SME Alliance, we stand for the voice of over 900,000 small and medium-sized companies in Germany. Although international trade is one of several topics our association is working on, we actively support our members in exploring new markets and design new business opportunities for them around the globe. Many SMEs can't fully realize their potential due to the limited external resources, insufficient knowledge of foreign markets, or the lack of international experience. Therefore, we have created an expert pool of Bmw Foreign Representatives in more than 70 countries. Our representatives support SMEs with setting up or expanding their business activities abroad with an attractive range of services. Having in mind the critical importance of networking for SMEs' internationalization activities, the BMW has about 800,000 direct contacts annually with entrepreneurs and organizes over 2,000 networking events every year. Ladies and gentlemen, the Mittelstand is the backbone of the EU economy and the major driver of innovation worldwide. Our key task should be to help them to overcome all these challenges and to maximize their potential. More than ever, we must work together and use the current situation as an opportunity. I very much hope that today we will find new solutions for the SME development and growth, and we will create new opportunities for the collaboration of German and Portuguese enterprises. Thank you very much for this great opportunity to meet you and to exchange with you on our common project, Strong SMEs in a Strong World.
Now, moving on to our panel, the Mittelstand, small-medium enterprises, the right size for a world in deglobalization. Are small to medium-sized companies prepared to address this challenge or this opportunity? The topic we will discuss is how SMEs should prepare to do business in the times we live. To discuss this topic, our guests, Henrique Rezio, General Manager of Soplast, André Godinho, the CEO of Infinite Foundry, Kai Kegelmann, the owner of Kegelmann Manufacturing, and Philippe Tambour, software engineer at Soft for Automation. Our moderator, Carlos Pinto, commercial director of ICEP Portugal Global, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. I would like to have a relaxed conversation. Let's try to have some fun. Not exactly the same kind of fun we have had in yesterday evening's party, but we have to be, I hope it will be an interesting conversation. I have here on my right side two small and medium enterprises from Portugal. Henrique Rezio, Soplast, and André Godinho from Infinite Foundry. And on my left side, I have two small and medium German companies, Kai Kegelmann, Kegelmann Technik, and Soft for Automation, Philippe Tambour, which is not German, but is working in a German company. Allow me to start with a couple of questions and some reflections in order to inspire the discussion that we will hear this afternoon. First question, what are we facing? Deglobalization? Regionalization of globalization? It's another concept. Or re-globalization? From where we're standing now, the peak of globalization is well behind us. But globalization is not ending. It is simply shifting and changing. It got caught in a perfect storm of COVID, climate change, and conflict. Any of each alone could stale globalization. A new, more selective, and strategic approach to integration is being formed. The new focus of companies and governments is security, thus driving away from a sole source of dependency to more localization and greater redundancies. Experts consider that multinational companies will both localize and diversify their supply chains in the next years, readjusting them along geopolitical fault lines. What will be the impact of this trend on SMEs? At the same time, resilience has become the new catchword, replacing the just-in-time strategy. Companies are now building up costly inventory to protect themselves, sometimes even buying and storing stocks for up to 6 months. Observers argue that businesses will continue to protect the viability of supply chains, partly by creating regionalized chains as opposed to global ones, and by returning manufacturing and sourcing to the home market. With many countries turning inward, we are entering a new phase of increased economic volatility, polarization, and change in the economic global system. This rivalry between global centers is expanding from the physical world to the virtual one, rising the competition over the control of technology and information networks. However, it is important to keep in mind that this regionalization of globalization, actually very difficult to pronounce, or reglobalization, is a reality when we talk about goods and about Western world, namely Europe. But if you look at Asia, globalization has never been so strong. So with these initial remarks, I would like to start our conversation, in this case with my colleague here from the right, with André of Infinite Foundry.
Thank you very much.
And to ask you, what strategy has your company towards this trend?
So thank you very much, Carlos. Thank you very much for the invitation to be here in this panel. Our company, we are a 3D digitalization company. So we have been working for 5 years in the field of fully digitalizing production lines. And with the concept that Carlos was already mentioning, that although globalization has been in the market for many years, many things still are not globalized. So many risks were not fully understood on a supply chain level, which meant that even during COVID, we had all the supply chain problems even before the war. So that meant that when a factory, the factory is dependent on many other institutions, and many times the information that the factory needed to operate, available from the other institutions, were very limited. That meant that many times you could face problems like lack of raw materials, problems with quality, and so forth. So our company has basically been introducing this concept that with the digital world, you can share information no matter where you are, no matter the size of your company. And the share of information is not only about simple things like processes, but it's also about knowledge. And people here in the beginning talked a lot about sharing the knowledge. And that's hugely important because the knowledge about how procedures are done, it's very important for you to still keep the manufacturing at a low price, but with high quality and to deliver on time. And that's pretty much what we have been doing as a software company to help the industry address these issues.
Thank you very much. Mr. Kai Kegelman, the same question. Has your company thought about these themes, and do you have a specific strategy to face this new trend that we are living now?
Thank you very much for the invitation today, and thank you very much to discuss with you about globalization or deglobalization. So our company is a family-owned business for 33 years, and we are producing parts for our customers. So we are a production company. In contrast to the other companies which have digital models, we are a production company. So we produce parts for the customers and ship it to the customer. I see two approaches. One, through the digital world, globalization will be driven even more, and the facility of talking and communication and transportation, the globalization will rise still. But what we also see, as we are a production company, that of two big reasons production has to be local. I don't know if deglobalization is the right word, but local production in a global world, I think, is the right approach, because of sustainability issues and because of the supply chain issues. We see the last 2 years, I think that production will be more and more local. To come back to our business model, so what we produce is prototypes and small series production. So we are in the small batch sizes. And what we see from a lot of customers here in Germany, especially in Germany, as this is our market, that certain parts did not come to Europe the last 2 years. And the customers have difficulties to bring the parts to Europe. So that's why we see a big chance for us, for a small and medium-sized company, to produce those low quantities here in a high-cost country like Germany, because the supply chain is more secure, and because of sustainability issues, the long logistic supply chain won't be necessary in the future. Yeah.
Thank you. Enrique, and from Soplast point of view, how do you see all this phenomenon?
Yeah, hello, hi. My name is Andrew President. Thank you for the invitation. We are facing, I think this is a mix. It's a challenge, globalization or deglobalization. I don't know, but recently I think the problem was there a long time ago. Now recent developments have showed that we have to make things. Not everything, is on our hands. I think we should help and ask for help for some politicians also to make some decisions to help SMEs, because we need also some support. And why? Raw materials are crazy at the moment. Like you were saying, stocks are tremendous. And the second subject is when small companies like ours, we work for the automotive industry for 40 years, and when we try to digitalize ourselves, like it happened to us in the recent period, we face that digitally is always not so many times made in Europe. So when we talk about electronics and things like that, we are always talking about some special continent where everything comes from. And we need urgently to find ways, not alone, but together, to bring things to Europe, some critical components. And we all face things about electronics which are still lacking in terms of capacity, and our supply chains on the automotive industry are at the moment with a lot of disruptions. And honestly, we have a word. I think SMEs are flexible, but not alone as Portugal, maybe together also with Germany, but we have to have a big support from decision makers on this, I think.
Thank you. Philippe, the same to you. Has your company defined the strategy towards deglobalization?
Yes. First of all, thank you very much for being here. Thank you to Bmw for the opportunity as well. We are a small automation, industrial automation enterprise who is highly dependent on semiconductors, or facing the same problems as everyone here, with delivery times from more than 20 weeks or something like that. So when buying a panel or something for a customer, the strategy that we try to use is to understand the real problem that the customer has, to maybe offer different opportunities or different mechanisms to solve the problem with the same utility. And yes, being so close to the customer that we understand everything he needs and try to deliver something in less time that is already available in market, and trying to show him what is the importance of going so, because with so long delivery times that we are facing right now, when someone needs a real delivery in close times, it's almost impossible today. So that's the main strategy. So understanding the problem and trying to offer something that solves the problem as the same way, but with different components.
Thank you. I return to you, Andre. In this context, I don't know how you prefer to call it, with so many
I
adjectives.
don't like deglobalization.
I've noticed that, so you can call it another thing. You are free to do it. How can Portuguese and German companies better cooperate in this scenario? And you can actually concentrate in your flagship project, your 3D platform. We are seeing an image of that. Is there any advantage of a partnership, a closer relation, even closer relation between Portuguese and German companies?
Of course, for us, we have been exactly building digital twins for one of the problems that Enrique mentioned, which is knowledge. So many times it's very difficult for a company to actually have a full knowledge about their operation. They might have a partial knowledge, they might not know the energy consumed, they know the number of products produced. But for example, little details like, why do I have a quality problem? Can I accelerate my process? Can I reduce the energy consumption? That kind of knowledge, it's many times complicated. And if you are an SME, it's even more challenging because you have a smaller engineering team to actually generate that knowledge. So our concept was, why don't we copy the real world to the virtual world with high accuracy? Like you see in this case, is a continental factory. This is a small portion that they allow us to show. This is not the critical area, that's why they allow us to show. But the concept is, as you copy with high accuracy the real world to the digital world, then you can play with it, like you can play in a video game. And so you can create thousands of scenarios, and those thousands of scenarios are going to generate knowledge to you, are going to tell, okay, if I change this material, what is the outcome? If I accelerate my process, what is the outcome? If I change from a robot to a person, what is the outcome? So in a very quick way, no matter if you have a big team or a small team, it's like playing as a video game, you can immediately generate that knowledge. And it's our belief that the knowledge is the central piece, or what you call deglobalization. I prefer to call regionalization of globalization, but exactly. But so it's exactly because of that, because if you can have the knowledge, then you can have the conditions to operate in the same efficient way as larger companies. So the central piece here is knowledge, and my colleague here, Enrique, was mentioning, for example, about electronics. There is a lot of electronics is one area which is very complicated to generate knowledge because it's high speed, very small scale. So it's super, you need to have a lot of resources. But with computers, you don't need that much amount of microscopes, scientists to actually understand that. So when Europe is looking, for example, to see can we get the same technology and knowledge on how to operate these electronics, because it's crucial for our supply chain. The digital world is a world that helps you to actually generate faster that knowledge and help you to deploy. But it's not only, and this is, I'll finish with my part, but this is not only you as a factory. You have to look this as a supply chain, as a network. And if you can create this same network in the digital world, this means that if you change something, you know what is the effect on your supplier. Can your supplier supply you with the change that you have made? If your supplier cannot, who can make? Can you help the supplier? You need extra help from people. So in the digital world, everything becomes very transparent in terms about how you can make all these changes, how you can react to exactly these challenges to the market very fast. Because at the end of the day, we don't want this phenomenon to end up with the consumers paying more, because that is a negative effect. That is socially a very negative effect. So we need to make sure that when we deglobalize, we still keep the costs the same as what was the main strategy on globalization, which was big factories, big volumes, you reduce the cost. And the challenge is, if we reduce the size of the factories, if we have more factories doing the same stuff in different regions, can we still have the same cost so that socially people can still access the same goods? and you do not have any global issues. So it's our firm belief that the digital world, it's an essential piece in this strategy, and is essential not only for Europe but for the world to exactly, at the end of the day, and you talk here about sustainability, at the end of the day produce these goods in a sustainable way, in a cost-effective way, and in a flexible way so that you can quickly address to all the market changes and shifts.
Thank you, Andre. Kay Kegelman, have you ever thought in cooperate with Portuguese small and medium enterprises, and this context makes you be more open to that? Can you say something about that?
So we are a family-owned business with 33 years of business right now. The company was founded by my uncle, and as a typical company 30 years ago, English was not that common, and the focus was to build up the company. So the second generation with me is now more international, more open to other countries, especially for a small and medium-sized company. English is not, or was not that common. Today it's not a problem anymore. And I'm really looking forward to have a network also not in Germany but also in Europe, because I think in the future we will produce more on the continent. We don't have that much long transportation costs anymore or transportation time. So production will be more local on a continental point of view. An event like this is the first step for making business with Portugal, for example. So I'm really looking forward as this to be the first step to have more contact and network with Portuguese companies. And what is important, and this is what showed the last 2 years, business is done by people. And you can do a lot of Zoom and team meetings as you want, which is really easy, even if someone is in Portugal. But business is between people. And that's why a meeting like this, a conversation like this, a conference like this is so crucial to build up international partnerships.
Good. I hope so. Through ICEP, you can have that information, and we look forward to help you in that cooperation and directly with these companies. For instance, your 3D printing project. Do you know what we are doing in this field in Portugal? Have you any information?
Not yet. But I think which is really amazing about a technology like 3D printing, that you do not need big molds, you don't need mass production technology, which is really costly and usually produced somewhere in a low-cost country. So with 3D printing, it's actually possible to produce locally. And the example you see here on the top is looking into a packaging machine for tubes. Those blue parts you can see are 3D printed parts, really lightweight design. And they are produced here in Germany, and this customer puts the machine, and then they are placed at the customers here in Europe. So with 3D printing, you can actually only send the file, the three-dimensional file. You don't need any tools and molds, and you can produce small batch sizes with this technology.
Okay, thank you. Philippe, going back to our conversation, in this context, how do you see, is it an advantage to increase cooperation with companies from other, namely with Portuguese companies? You must know that we have a vibrant startup ecosystem in Portugal. I don't know if you know the reality in Portugal. How do you see in this context a future collaboration, a future partnership with Portuguese companies?
Yeah, so I would say the main focus outside Germany for our enterprise would be Portugal right now, as as a native speaker of Portuguese, we believe that although I have to agree with Kegelman, English nowadays is a worldwide language. We also believe that having someone that can speak Portuguese and understand, as we said, understand the whole situation on the industrial needs from Portugal, we believe that it will be a good opportunity to collaborate, learn also. So we have the possibility to change knowledge. I'm a big fan from digital twin. I really agree that this is a big deal for today. And this is already an example where we can change knowledge and make things work. Yeah, this way I believe that being able to be together in this opportunity and the nearshore role on this. For example, if you have an urgency maintenance in production or something alike, we are just a couple hours from Portugal, being able to do it, of course, remotely as well, but also presential if needed. No? And also for the training for the machine, being an enterprise that can speak the mother language could reach more people in Portugal and delivery automation through the Portuguese language.
Thank you. I've changed the order. Sorry, Roberto. I will go with the help of Roberto. We are back on track. We are here 4 days, fair. I imagine you have had a lot of contacts. I hope so. You can share with us as well your perspective. I imagine that a lot of them could be from German companies. In your view, how can we better cooperate with the German companies to increase with mutual beneficiaries?
I'm very happy, honestly, with the results we got here in Hanover. Yes, for this is the first time we are presenting it on Monday worldwide, and this is maybe my face is not enough to describe the happiness I have with this, but it was an amazing week. And the great contacts we made. This is a development, original one, that started in a local university in Portugal, in Coimbra, that we just picked the idea up and brought it to light on an interior car concept. It is a tendency, okay, because we are plastic mold makers, plastic part manufacturers, sorry, and it has nothing to do with digitalize normally, either with additive manufacturing or other things. So entering on this, we arrived to a different scenario, which is how can we place digital things on our solid parts. And we tried for the first time with this, with a technology that should reduce our dependency from the traditional Asian countries that we are normally the manufacturers of this technology. But I will pick up what Andrea was saying. I think we should speak about costs. Sorry to change a little bit, because I don't know if you agree with me. There is a question at the moment, is that can Portugal or Germany follow the costs of other countries when we come back? In my opinion, the answer is no. I think neither Andrea or you will agree that we will produce at the same cost that other countries are producing, and we are facing this right now. So companies are coming to us, but they still have on their mind the price they are paying. I'm not going to say the countries, it doesn't matter. So the question is, how should we proceed? Should we keep running on our cost levels, because we should, because our costs are not the same as other countries? Or should we find alternative ways to lower it? I think we should convince, together with politicians and public institutions, to keep the costs on our level and not reduce them, because it will not be the way, I think.
Now, I would like to...
I would just answer because I agree with you, and I also agree that we are a high salary country here in Europe, and we have to find a smart solution to have, continue producing here in Germany. But I think what is really a crucial point of view is that the state of mind changes. So our generation and even the younger generation really looks into sustainability, and they really question, is it necessary to transport the goods all over the world with all the cost of energy and cost of diesel and so on. So I think there will be a change in the mind of the younger people, but this also has to be supported by politicians, that they support the small and medium-sized companies to say, okay, the price is maybe a little bit higher here in Europe, but the good is not transported all over the globe.
I can also pick up a bit on that aspect. Of course, that if you produce in Germany or in Portugal, it's going to be more expensive in other low-cost countries. But then you can also balance with exactly what you mentioned about less shipping costs and those things. What I'm saying is that at the end of the day, we should not assume just that by coming back some production from other countries to Europe, that you should immediately increase the cost. We should try as much as possible to be cost effective, not only to sell, again, that's why I don't like just deglobalization, the word, because not only to sell in Europe, but also to sell worldwide. It doesn't mean that because you are just manufacturing in Europe that you can only sell to a couple of countries in the world. So this is a complex, of course, matrix, where you have many suppliers, many products. The customer is more and more, you mentioned young customers, they more and more, you know, one day they want something, next day they want another thing, so you need also to have this flexibility. So it's a complex picture that if you are just in your factory trying to figure out everything, it's going to be a huge stretch. And this is why we think that it's hugely important to bring this digital transformation very quickly. Digital transformation, in our opinion, is not just about the big screen with just telling you number of products produced. That you can even put on a paper, on a pen, it's not going to change significantly your cost. Digital transformation for us, it's all about asking the fundamental questions, which is, can I produce with less energy, with more sustainable resources? Can I be faster? Can I be more flexible? But at the same time, can I use other materials that probably are cheaper, but are more complex to manufacture? But if I can master this, then I can be more efficient. So it's a lot of giving much more flexibility and speed in decision on an industry that traditional is very conservative. Now, I was talking here, you mentioned about customs, I was talking here with a company that they produce nuclear components. And in the nuclear, they were telling me, okay, we operate, I'm on the guy that I was speaking with, he is on the product development. So he said, okay, we have our lab, we do a lot of things. Then when it comes to operations, they shut down a lot of the things that we do because they're afraid. So how can we, that was his question, how can we, from the moment that we develop, we can prove to the operations people that this technology can come to the market, because our sector is a sector that takes 20 years for a new thing to come to the market. So there is here in this deglobalization effect, we just need to better understand the whole picture and take that mindset out that we should just do the things by trial and error, by testing, by those things, because then you do not have the velocity, number one. Secondly, you do not actually have the resources, because if you are like a big Chinese company with 1 million employees, you do not have the resources to develop the things that fast. So we need to find ways and working ways. We need to find other procedures in industry that help us also to achieve these levels of efficiency with less resources. So we just need to be smart at the end of the day, and the digital tools help us to be smart, and we should as much as possible to do that. So Of course, I understand what Enrique mentioned. I think it's also important that we cannot do this without cash. So, of course, at the end of the day, this means investment. This means, you need to have cash in the bank to do this. And, of course, SMEs is always a problem in terms of investment. So that probably means that in terms of also the political things, maybe you also need to change a bit this. But it's not just about having cash in the bank. It's also about being smarter, leaner, and a lot of these things. So, and we should kind of tag to say, okay, if you want cash, you also need to change our procedures, because we just don't want to keep subsidizing you for many, many, many years. So you may help you a bit, but you also need to change the procedures so that at the end of the day, you can achieve the same levels of, again, cost and effectiveness as, the other geographies with larger companies. And I think for us, this is kind of the main message. You should not just be feel defeated because you are just reducing the scale and working on an SME level. You should have, at the end of the day, the same efficiency as a large manufacturing company. That's kind of the ideal world, and that's what we are trying to bring to the market.
Your intervention, and almost all of them.
I also agree about the costs. We have to think about it. But when you're doing it locally, you are going back to a circular economy. So although the price may be higher, you are also employing more people and the money are staying closer to you. So although it has an impact, and I understand that, I also this is maybe also be a part of the solution, since we are going more circular in the economy.
Yeah. Your intervention made me think, obliged me to this next question. Are businesses ready for this context? Are the companies, if not, what type of advice you could give to other companies?
Yes. Yeah, please. No, please.
Doesn't matter. Please.
I don't think we are all fully ready for this. I think in terms of resources, and speaking about that, SMEs, honestly, we have a lack of resources, and to catch them. Then it's also the talents we need to catch new businesses, because as we see, we do A, we want to do B, and we need to get resources that we don't normally have. But I think what is critical in order to be prepared is that in terms of capacity, so resources, it's the main thing, technical or even production, doesn't matter if we're talking about IT, like Andrei is saying, which Portugal is capable, or even maintenance or other production. That is, for me, critical, being ready and having capacity and innovations that the others don't have. And I think on that way, strengthen partnerships between development centers, universities, local companies, Germany and Portugal. I think we should all learn how to be more associates, more work in cooperation, and close and open, sorry, not close, but open some doors that normally on our daily basis we are so stressed with our daily job that we don't shake hands and open doors to others. And I think that's the way how the small get together and win the big ones. Yeah.
So the biggest advantage of small, medium-sized companies, they are fast and flexible. And I think this is the most crucial thing, and that's why small, medium companies will always exist and be successful, because they can rapidly change because of because of the market. So I don't want to be a really big company, because then I'm not flexible anymore. I want to stay small and be small, so I can react really fast on changes. Yeah, the last 2 years with Corona, every industry in the production area for developing parts had some difficulties, but we could quickly adapt to other markets. We could quickly adapt to other products, and this is why we stayed successful. So I think, and I agree with you, companies should open up, especially here in Europe, because we have small distances, we are really connected. But so every company has to open its doors and show a little bit of the capacities and the secrets, because in the end we have to work together. The clients have to be treated together. Yeah? They need small companies who join forces.
Yeah, I also think we are not ready for the deglobalization. Unfortunately, we are still very dependent from other continents, and more than that, I would say for the semiconductor industry, for example, the costs are extremely high. So that's the main problem for SMEs, for example, to be able to solve that would be needed a huge investment, and maybe a solution can be using the digitalization to put everyone hands together and create many SMEs a production line. However, that also take time, a bigger effort. This, of course, is a great step forward, this solution. But yes, we just have had an example that we are not ready. It's already almost 2 years that we are having some problems with the semiconductors, and no one could find a solution, a real solution for that. So my answer would be, we are not ready, although we want to, maybe.
Yeah, I also agree with all the colleagues. So the companies, of course, are not fully ready. This I think in the recent events, this now came very fast, and people were not thinking that probably this would come so fast. But let me also share with you, a very small story. Many years ago, even before I started the Infinite Foundry, when I was engineering consultant for the automotive sector, we were solving aftermarket problems, which were basically when you have a part that breaks in service, and you need to find the root cause of that problem. Might be assembly, might be a supplier, might be the raw material, and we just had we simulated lots of possibilities to try to find out the correct answer. And then, okay, based on our study, we think this is the answer. And then our customer, and then we would write the report, and then our customer would always tell us, okay, just write in the last line, or that all your studies should be validated by physical testing. I was quite upset with him to say, okay, why do you need my study if you just want to do physical testing? Just go to your lab and do all the physical testing. You are just wasting your money with me, because then you are going to repeat everything again in your lab. So and he said, oh, because your colors are beautiful. So this just tells you what? This just tells you that's why I mentioned about the procedures. We have been in the market for many years, and the industry in this aspect is quite a tough market. You have these procedures. Why? Because someone wrote them, and why? Because if I change them, then if this goes wrong, then I'm fired, because this costs multi-million things. So in industry, everything many times when you go to customers, it's like this. So they are in a net of procedures and things that it's difficult to actually move forward with those procedures. And that's what we think it's one area that it's super important. And in SMEs, funny enough, is exactly as the colleague said, they are flexible in one way, but sometimes they're also very strict in the way that they have done. For example, some SMEs that we go in, and then the customer tells us, okay, our secret is because we do everything in-house. And the first thing that it's that if you do everything in-house, you may have a problem, because there are things that you are not that good, right? You should be good on doing something. You should not be good on doing other things, because other guys do them better because they can sell to more guys. So this just tells you that at the end of the day, this deglobalization effect, now to do the simple word, means that you need also to revise all the way that you have been doing business. The way that from your sales to the way you actually in your operation deal with it, to be and not find excuses to say, okay, I cannot improve because I'm small. That it should be something that you should not find those excuses, because if you have those excuses, that means that, okay, then you are going to tell, okay, then I need subsidies to subsidize my inefficiency. So at the end of the day, we should, and my main message is that we should see this as an opportunity to also change and to also be very competitive in the world market, not just in the European market, with knowing that we will not have one factory with 1 million employees, because that's not possible in Europe, but knowing that you can probably supply with products that have a higher value, products that are competitive at the market needs, but also with the right cost. We should not give up on saying, okay, we are doing this locally, so our cost is going to be higher. I think that is I'm not saying, I don't want to have this word in a negative way, but that's a bit a lazy way of doing this. You should strive to be as competitive as your largest opponents, and this way then the industry in Europe is sustainable, has a huge and a bright future, because if we can work in an European way of doing this, and that's why we think, in our case, digitalization is a key element to achieve that, then it means that in Europe you have the fundamentals with you, and this thing of reshoring is successful, and you can supply to the market products with a good quality and a good price.
Thank you. And this volatile and polarized world that we are living in, with the surge of protectionism, supply chain disruptions, shortages of raw materials and other materials, high prices of energy, which are the biggest threats to your business in this uncertainty scenario, please?
Yeah, the variety of the prices at the moment that you are saying, Carlos, are crazy. So we are now offering parts on the day 1 of the month, that on the day 1 of the next month, the quotation is totally different. So, and our customer is not accepting all the time that, okay, I made a mistake, or at that moment, raw material was costing something. So today, honestly, in my company, we face a risk on our new RFQs and requests for quotations about this. Of course, IT is maybe different, each one has their fights. But when we deal with production and raw materials and also electricity, honestly, Soplast made an agreement with a contract for 10 years fixed price for electricity. So this was, for me, I never imagined in November, at a moment, things change, not each minute, but almost. So, but I think this will be solved shortly.
For you, the biggest threat to your business. And how do you see this, Philippe? You are in a different, you're totally...
Yeah, for us, the biggest problem are the delivery times. As said, nowadays for a part we have 20 weeks of delivery time, and there are even parts that the seller just say, first you have to pay, and then you will become a delivery day. And then you can even say your customer how long it want to take to deliver that machine. And that's the biggest problem. I'm pretty sure automation, industrial automation, as it is, or a little bit modern vision for automation, will keep running on the business, because we need automation. It's something that brings high value to the market. Although without solving this problem from delivery times, without solving the problem that we're living right now, we can't be sure that we, as a SME, can be holding those times, because although you may have 5 or 6 projects, they are paid only after you deliver the machine, and to build this machine you're taking 6, 7, 8 months. Then it's hard. How are we going through this 8 weeks or something like that without a project delivery. That's our main concern.
Do you want to mention any specific threat?
I wanted to add something to energy prices and material prices. In our business, it's the same. We are really having big trouble with energy here, especially here in Germany, where we have a lot of taxes on top of the energy price. The material issue is not that. It's of course an issue, and prices are rising. But as we are producing small quantities, and we don't have long-term production of millions of parts, the customers are more open to quickly adapt the price, because the project, in 1 month we build a mold, produce the parts, and then it's over. So we don't have that much risk of 5, 6, 7 years of price binding. What I think is the biggest threat for small, medium-sized companies in production here in Germany is the over-regulation of the companies. So we have so many certifications and so many things the state, the government is asking from small, medium-sized companies, that this is actually, in my opinion, the biggest threat. Yeah? So before you make any money, you have to have 50 audits and 50 certifications until you start your production. So this is something that has to change, because this really is killing the companies here in Germany. Yeah.
Thank you. Pick up on that, exactly on that aspect. It has been a big fight for us for many years to actually, everywhere, to actually, exactly on those regulations, that digitalization is a way that helps you to have lots of knowledge without having to go through a huge paper and a pile of money that you need to spend on actually validating this. But again, that's why I've mentioned about that all of this deglobalization, every organization that the influence is something also needs to rethink their way of doing this. Again, a very simple example still nowadays, which is if you want a certificate for a crash test of a car, you still need to do the crash test. Many times you don't actually need to do that. You can buy simulation, show that it's going to be okay, but you still need to do it. So just gave a simple example of the over-regulation, and then you need to go and you need to prove several ways. And if you digitalize and if you virtualize that regulation, you still can prove that the company has no problems in terms of environment and all of those policies, but in a much lighter way, and not one that you have to, it spends you a lot of money and time to fill up paperwork. So again, Enrique mentioned that, and I think that's important also. The government organizations that demand these things, they also need to open to ways to help the industry to also be more flexible. And if you can take the cost out, and if you can find ways taking that cost out, but still ensuring what you need, then it's a positive for the industry. So I think that is also important. We should have all the stakeholders to rethink this way and take this chance to rethink the business models, because everyone, there is fat, a lot of fat in the system that you can't take out. And that's why I have always been mentioning here in this panel that I think that we should not give up, that deglobalization means higher prices. Maybe, may not, but we should focus on taking all the fat out of the system, and trust me, there is a lot of fat in the system that we can take out, and just focus on the meat.
Thank you, Andre. Although we are finishing with some context costs, I think there are lots of opportunities in this new world that we are entering, with a lot of threats, but as well with a lot of opportunities. And I believe the big conclusion after this discussion, the small and medium enterprises are relatively well prepared to face the new challenges. So, gentlemen, it was a pleasure to share the stage with you. Thank you so much for the discussion, and have a nice day. Thank you very much. Thank you.
All good things must come to an end, and this is the time to say farewell to Hannover Messe 2022. It was an honor being partner country this year. We already missed these 4 exciting days, but the spirit of Portugal Makes Sense will live in the people and companies touched by our story, our talent, our way of doing things. We hope you enjoyed visiting Hannover Messe and being a part of our partner country project as much as we did. Portugal Makes Sense, and you are now invited to relive some of its best moments.
Esta é a maior representação de sempre de Portugal na Feira de Hannover.
É para mim um enorme prazer proceder à abertura oficial desta feira.
I'm glad that the walkabout starts right here. I warmly welcome you all to Germany and to the Hannover Messe.
Para todas estas empresas, aquelas que investem em Portugal ou aquelas que compram em Portugal, Portugal faz sentido.
Eu não tenho dúvida nenhuma que a industrialização do país, o reforço do seu potencial produtivo vai passar por aqui.
Portugal is the place to go buy equipment and industrial inputs to invest and to innovate. Join us and see with your own eyes why Portugal makes sense.
E é por isso que a vossa presença nesta montra é absolutamente essencial, porque irá seguramente alavancar o aumento e o crescimento das nossas exportações.